Good morning. Welcome to Sunday's Sunday workshop on meditation for letting go of attachment at Vajrayana Institute. I'm Wai Chong. So over the two sessions, one morning, one afternoon, we'll look at a few meditations to facilitate this process of letting go. I think most of us can appreciate the need to let go of our attachment, clinging, especially when those attachments and clingings are causing us a lot of suffering, a lot of heartache. The difficulty is how to consciously, make that happen. It seems like the mind and heart, have a mind of their own, and even though we are aware of the suffering that the attachment is causing us, we might find it quite impossible, to let go. So we're going to look at a bit of how we can facilitate that process. So since this is a live stream, so you're most welcome to give me your comments or questions or feedback during the sessions at the live chat, and I will attend to them. So maybe what I'll do is I'll start by defining attachment, how I use this word, or at least how we use it in the Buddhist context. The same word is used in different contexts and have different meanings. So it's important to differentiate that, not to confuse the way we use the word attachment with the way the word is used maybe in psychology or psychotherapy contexts. Those may have different meanings. So here in Buddhism, the word attachment usually refer to, it's considered an unwholesome state of mind. The reason why it's unwholesome or non-virtuous because it is based on a kind of distorted view or distorted understanding of reality. So in relation to, let's say, our attachment to a particular person. So what happened here is we have built up in our own mind a certain image, a certain idea of that person. Now that image and idea is distorted. It's not the actual person, but we have confused our image, our idea for the actual person. So every time we engage with this person, we're not really seeing who he or she is. We're not really kind of in a way responding to who they are in that moment. We are responding on the basis of the image in our mind. In fact, you can also think of that image or idea in our mind as like a filter. So we are always perceiving or interacting with that person influenced by that filter. The filter affects how we see the person, what appears to us visually, auditorily, and so on and so forth. So it has a kind of a lens, but it's a distorting lens. It distorts every perception we have of that person. And we are, in a way, interacting or reacting to primarily the ideal image in our mind. So, in other words, we are not truly in touch with the actual person. So that is the distorting aspect of attachment. And this image is often described, in the case of attachment, has some kind of unrealistic qualities to it. We have infused the image with exaggerated qualities. Usually for attachment, the exaggeration is to do with what we perceive as good qualities or perfection, and or anything that is related to pleasure or happiness. So we project this image onto the person, and then we are always interacting with the person via the image. And of course, the main kind of interaction, the main thrust of the way we react is this tendency to grasp or to cling, this holding, which is very characteristic of attachment. Because we perceive this person this object as so perfect, so good, as the source of my true happiness. Of course, instinctively, we react to that by trying to hang on to it, by trying to hold on to it. Right? So that clinging, the grasping, the holding is a very understandable kind of reaction. So this is what we refer to as attachment. Giving attention to a false image, a false idea, one that involves exaggerated qualities that are not really there, or one that involves some idea of perfection that is not real, that is not actually present. And in so doing, we are out of touch with the actual person. We don't actually see or hear the actual person. And on top of that, we react by trying to hold on to this so-called source of happiness. We try to cling, we try to grasp. So that's what I mean by attachment. And just by hearing the so-called definition or description, you can understand why it could be a source of suffering instead of happiness. Because first of all, we are out of touch with reality. So no matter how we behave, how we react, we are often off. We're not addressing the actual issues because we can't see. We can't see reality under the influence of attachment. And also, precisely because of that, no matter what we do under the influence of attachment, it will always be inappropriate because we've been out of touch with reality. No matter how hard we try, we never quite get it. And so as a result of that, we suffer. We suffer when we are able to hold on. We have the object, we still suffer. When we somehow were to lose the object, we also suffer. In fact, there is a sign that attachment is functioning, is when even in the absence of the person object, we still suffer. Because why? We have the image, we have the idea in our head, in our own mind. And so long as that is being activated, we will have the same usual reaction, feelings, and so forth. And our suffering continues, which is quite a bummer. Even though maybe the relationship has broken up and you're no longer seeing that person, so long as we deep within us, we are still holding on to that image, the idea, we will continue to suffer. So for me, I think attachment, in a way, brings unnecessary suffering, all this extra suffering, over and above the difficulties we encounter in our daily life. Now we have this additional one. So how can we free ourselves from that suffering? In a way, how can we free ourselves from attachments that have already been activated, they are already present in our experience? So that's what today's workshop is all about. First thing to note is we ourselves are not going to be the one to let go. It's not within our control to let go. Because if it is within our control, we will have let go of it a long time ago. Right? So that's a very important point to remember. I'm not the one that's going to let go of my attachment. Having said that, my attachment can be let go of. Attachment can fade, can become less and less powerful, less and less influential until it has no power over me anymore. And in fact, eventually it will stop arise. Attachment towards a particular person, that's it. So it can be let go of, but I'm not the one that is in control. I'm not the one that is going to dictate. Now I let go. Now I hold on. The reason why that is because we are also not the one that decides when to attach, not attach. If you were to look back, you'll find that quite often we develop attachment kind of unconsciously or subconsciously. It sort of creep up on us, before we know it. At first, it starts off as a pretty normal kind of relationship. You're able to see that person quite clearly, but something sort of happens along the way. And bit by bit, we are taken over. We are confused and we are deceived by our own mind, or a mind of attachment. And we start to substitute an image over the real person. And in relation to that image, through the influence of that attention to that image, we build up all these other expectations and all these other feelings And eventually we find, before we know it, we are already holding on tightly the characteristics of attachment. Okay, so that is as an introduction. So since we are not the one that actually dictate when or how to let go, then what happened then? What we can do is to create the conditions, is to try to understand the situation, what's happening to us, and try to bring together the conditions. And it is when the conditions are right that attachment starts to fade and eventually let go of. Right? So the letting go of happens when the conditions are present. So our job, in a way, is to figure out, what are some of the favorable conditions and how can I bring them together? How can I nurture those conditions that would lead to the letting go of attachment? Okay, so that is what we're going to do. We're going to look at how to gather the conditions that will facilitate the letting go of attachment. And precisely because of this approach, we can't say and we can't dictate when that letting go is going to happen. Right? All we can do on our part is to be diligent in gathering together the conditions that nurture that letting go. When it actually happens, we don't know. In fact, quite often, the letting go of attachment happens outside of, occasionally we notice it. Most of the time, it's outside of our conscious awareness. So we may be pottering around, and then one day we suddenly realize, I have not been thinking about that person anymore. Or something has changed. Or even if you were to meet the person, the feeling and the response that coming forth from you seems to be different. So letting go has already happened. Right? So, we're going to explore just one main idea to how to facilitate letting go in the form of a few meditation. This main idea is based on how we understand attachment function. So first thing is attachment is distortion, right? Distort how we understand the reality of the person. In the case of a human relationship, in the case of in relation to another person, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to remedy that, is to come back and to be in touch with the reality of the moment. Come back to be in touch with the actual person. Come back to be able to try to see the person as who they are. Try to maybe pay a bit more attention, to listen to what they are saying, instead of operating on the basis of memory, on the basis of our established opinion, on the basis of that established image and idea of that person. So the first thing we need to do, one of the conditions, is to be in touch with the reality of the moment, the reality of the person, the reality of the situation, right? To be in touch. And this touch, right? This touch will facilitate a certain degree of release. The more we are able to see, in a moment we can see the situation as it is, then we will be able to respond to it as it is, and we would have let go of a little bit of that attachment. So this is what I want to, you can experiment and try out. Touch and release. Being in touch with reality facilitates the release of the holding, the release of the clinging, the release of that attachment. And then it's an iteration. And as a little bit of that release happens, if we are in touch with the release, the effect of the release, which is part of reality, the reality of this moment. Something happened, something nice. Not so heavy, not so tight anymore. Then the more we are in touch with that, the effect of the release, what happened? It facilitates greater release, deeper release. So touch and release. Touch as in to be in touch, to be aware. Release as in, release is like the effect. It's not something we do, but something we notice. Something has let go, something has opened up, has loosened up. Something that was tight and dense and rigid suddenly become a little bit more fluid, loosened, and so on and so forth. And the more we notice in touch with the effect, it facilitates greater release. So this cycle, this iteration continues. And the first meditation we're going to do is to sort of explore this idea that I'm presenting. And we do so in relation to primarily the body, which is like we're using it as an analogy to just test out this whole idea. Is there any truth to it? How does it feel like personally for you to experience it when it happens? Is to be in touch, facilitate release, and as the release happens, to be in touch with the effect of that release and see whether that catalyzes even greater release, and so on and so forth. And so this first meditation is, I actually call this meditation touch and release, where I guide you through, return your attention to the different parts of your body. And I usually do this synchronized with the breath. On the in-breath, just the natural in-breath, you don't have to adjust the breath in any way. If the breath is short, then it is short. If it's long, it's long. You don't have to artificially lengthen the breath. So on the in-breath, we try to remind ourselves to take note of the sensations at the part of the body we are focusing on. On the out-breath, we don't have to do anything. We just have to note and maybe remind ourselves with the word release. So on the in-breath, we try to be in touch with what we are feeling at the particular part of the body. On the out-breath, we remind ourselves with the word release and see what happens. Right, so we're going to go through the different parts of the body, part by part. I will guide you through this sequence. Those of you who have tuned in before will know this is my usual meditation. And when you do notice sometimes the effect of the release, which is a sense of loosening up, the rising of pleasant feelings, very mild, pleasant feeling of relief, of softening, of relaxation, then by all means also include that and be in touch with those pleasant sensations as well as whatever it is you are noticing. Yeah. So we are in touch with the different kind of sensations and feelings. And the more, especially, we are able to notice the effect of the release, we are able to invite in and notice and allow ourselves to enjoy that sense of loosening up of the body, the unwinding of tensions. You see whether does it, at least for me, I find that it actually facilitates even greater, the body is even more willing to release more of those holdings and contractions, a lot of which are actually related to attachment, related to our persistent reactions to the stress in our life, different situation in our life, and we have become quite habituated to holding our body in a certain way, contracting certain muscles, in a very habitual way. So if we are able to facilitate the release, at least on the physical level, through applying this idea, this method, then we might have give us a kind of experience how we can also apply to more on the emotional or cognitive level when we work with attachment. Okay, enough of my description. So let's give it a try. So I invite you to settle your body in a suitable meditation posture. You can sit on a chair, and wherever you are, you can sit on the floor, on the cushion. If you are comfortable with that, you can also lie down. Today is a nice, rainy, wet day in Sydney here. Just nice to chill out at home, doing some meditation workshop maybe. So you can lie down, I think maybe not on the bare floor, on some kind of, on a carpet or on a yoga mat, on some padding. You can also lie on a couch or a bed, provided that it is sufficiently firm and supportive. So you do that, and I'll ring this bell to signal the start of our first meditation. So in the posture you have adopted, try to make sure that your back feels comfortable. Allow the back to be upright in a natural way if you're sitting, and straight if you're lying down. Make sure that the arms and hands are well supported that you are resting them on some physical support, so that you don't have to tense up your shoulder muscles or arm muscles unnecessarily during the meditation. As for the eyes, feel free to close them completely if you're used to that. Of course, you can also leave them open or half open, whichever works best for you. So take a few moments at the beginning of the meditation just to allow the body to get used to the posture, to adjust to the posture. I'd like to start by noticing the sensations coming through at the contact between the body and the seat, the body and the ground. There's a good little exercise in grounding the body in the posture, grounding the mind in meditation. At those points of contact, see if we can notice sensations related to the earth elements, sensations of solidity, firmness, of stability, maybe hardness, maybe softness. But most important thing is to allow the body to feel that it is well supported in this posture, that it is resting on a solid, firm support, and that the posture will keep the body well balanced and safe. And when that message of support, of balance and safety is able to filter into the body, into the nervous system, it can encourage the body to begin a natural process of loosening up. Maybe the body realizes that it does not have to be so tight, so tense. And therefore it can, in its own time, start to unwind a bit. Let go of some of those tightenings and contractions. So that it can really settle down in the posture comfortably. So that's the first step of the meditation. I usually call it acquiring a seat for the body in meditation. Next, we're going to start with this meditation that I call touch and release. I will guide you through it, but don't feel that you need to follow exactly what I said. You're most welcome to ignore me if what I'm saying is not relevant to your experience, does not match your experience. If you know the practice, feel free to move ahead of me. You're always welcome to linger at any one particular part of our body if you like. So you can do it in your own way. Let's start at the crown of the head. And we're going to make use of the breath, our natural breath, to guide us, to be a support for us. The breath gives us a certain rhythm, the rhythm in which on the in-breath we are inviting our attention to be here, say the crown, to be in touch with the sensations here. Just a light touch, no effort, no great effort involved. Just notice sensations at the crown, maybe a tingling sensation, slight feeling of pressure, warmth or coolness, maybe nothing at all. And on the out breath, the natural out breath, we simply remind the body and our mind to release by mentally saying the word release. So at your own pace, on the in breath, be in touch with sensations at your crown. On the out breath, remind yourself to release. Release your attention from the crown, allow it to travel down and forward to the forehead. Rest the attention here, in between the eyebrows. Again, just a light touch. No need to put much effort. Don't have to try hard. Again, on the in-breath, just allow yourself to notice sensations here. At the forehead, are you tensing up the muscles of your forehead? Also be aware of sensations in the rest of the face. How does your face feel like? Are you also tensing up other muscles in the face, such as those around the eyes, or the muscles of your jaw? And on the out breath, simply in your own mind, say the word release. See if you can, at least at the face, where we do have more conscious control over facial muscles. See if you can really facilitate the release of the different tensions in the face, so that you can welcome in a feeling of softness, of ease and comfort in your own face. Breathing in, continue to be in touch, especially if you notice pleasant sensations arise as a result of release. Welcome those feelings into your meditation. Just take note of them, enjoy them while they're here. And on the out breath, continue to remind yourself to release. Release our attention from the forehead so that it can travel down and rest at the throat. Breathing in, we are aware of sensations at the throat, sensations at the neck. Breathing out, we once again remind ourselves to release. Coming back to the breath, coming back to the place you are attending to, in this case the throat. See if you can use less and less effort. It's natural at the beginning when we are more self-conscious to use a lot of effort, to try hard. As you get used to the rhythm of the practice, as you get used to what I'm inviting you to do, and as you figure out how best for you to proceed, see if you can lessen the effort. Allow the breath as much as possible to flow naturally. Figure out a way for you to engage with the breath, with the practice, in a way that you feel comfortable, not feeling rushed, not feeling tight, not feeling tense. Moving on to the right shoulder. Pick a spot at the right shoulder. Rest your attention here on the in-breath. Be in touch, be aware of sensations at your right shoulder. On the out-breath, release. Especially at the shoulder, as well as other parts of the body, we may come in touch with unpleasant feelings, tightness, tension. They're not so easy to release, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Just acknowledge what you find and just let them be for the moment. Moving on, allow attention to travel down to the right elbow so that you are in touch on the in-breath with the subtle sensations at your own right elbow. Just simple sensations, very faint, nothing spectacular. Don't have to try very hard. On the out breath, simply say to yourself, release. And moving down to the right wrist, which is our unusual place to pay attention to. Breathing in, be aware of subtle sensation at your right wrist. Breathing out, release. Then allow our attention to flow into the right hand, so that when we breathe in, we are in touch with sensations in the right hand, sensation at the palm, the back of the hand, sensation in the fingers. And on the out breath, release. Here, since we are in touch, we have been in touch with the entire arm, the right arm. As we breathe out to release, see if you can give permission to release and rest the right arm. Rest its weight comfortably on its physical support. Switching sides, we return our attention to the body, this time to the left shoulder. Breathing in, be in touch with sensations at the left shoulder. Breathing out, release. Throughout the meditation, you will find that our attention doesn't stay with the body, doesn't stay here and now. And that is quite a normal thing for attention to do. Simply invite it to come back when we notice that. I come back, in this case, to the left shoulder. Just start again. Breathe in, be aware. Breathe out, release. Moving down to the left elbow. Breathe in, be in touch. Out and release at the left elbow. Moving down to the left wrist. Touch and release, synchronize with the breath. Allow attention to flow into the left hand. Breathing in, we are aware of sensations in the left hand. Breathing out, we release. Reminding our body that it can release, it can let go. And now we can imagine letting go of the weight of the left arm. Simply allow it to rest comfortably on its physical support. And then moving on, allow attention to come back to the body, come back to the chest, such that when we detect an in-breath, we see it as a cue to come back, to be in touch with sensations at the chest. Notice the movement of the chest, maybe even sense the beating of your own heart. Be aware of sensations not only at the front of the chest, but also at the back, at the upper back, maybe the middle back. And on the out breath, gently remind our body to release. By now, if you do notice certain parts of your body has responded to what you are doing, some degree of release has happened, or you notice a certain degree of pleasant sensations, however faint they may be, have arisen, see if you can invite them into your awareness so that you are also in touch with those pleasant feelings while they're here, and allow them to help you deepen the process of release. Allow attention to move further down to the abdomen, around the level of our navel, somewhere inside the abdomen. Breathing in, be aware of sensations here at the abdomen, not only on the surface, but maybe deep within the abdominal cavity. Breathing out, release. Extend attention now to the right hip joint. Don't worry if you cannot detect the exact spot, just roughly at the right hip. Breathe in, be aware of sensations here. Breathe out and release. Moving down the right leg to the right knee. Breathe in, be in touch. Out and release at the right knee. The attention flow down to the right ankle. Touch and release at your own pace. The attention flow into the right foot so that you are aware on the in-breath sensations at the right foot. Sensation coming through the sole of your foot, the top of the foot, sensations in the toes. Breathing out, release. Release the weight of your right leg. Allow it to rest comfortably on the floor or whatever support it is on. And then switching over to the left side, the left leg, starting at the left hip joint. Breathe into, be aware of sensations here at the left hip. Out and release. Moving down the left leg to the left knee, touch and release at the left knee. Moving further down to the left ankle, touch and release. Into the left foot, touch and release. Release the weight of the left leg, allow it to rest comfortably on the floor, on the support. Now that we have traveled through from crown to feet, rest our entire body in this posture, on the seat, on the support. Breathing in, be aware of all the different bodily sensations. Be aware of areas of tightness, but also, more importantly, be aware of area of release, of loosening of tension, of unwinding, of pleasant feelings, however faint or short-lived, feeling of relief, feeling of comfort, of ease, of softness. And on the out breath, continue in your own mind to just say the word release in a very gentle way as a reminder, reminding the body it can continue to unwind, to release. And maybe also remind the mind itself that it can release any more things that is preoccupying our attention, unrelated to the meditation, things that pop into the mind, thoughts, worries, images. We can always say to our mind, reminding it that it can release, breathing out. Maybe the words can flow away with the breath, the thoughts, the images, the memories. Maybe all this can also be released with the breath. So rest here in silence for the last few minutes and allow the body and mind to continue to release, to settle down while we are in touch with them. Okay, so there's 25 minutes of meditation. I hope it's not too difficult. It's a good meditation to get us settled into a good meditation to get settled into meditation itself. I find that it's very helpful to help me release. Sometimes the mind get very caught up in thinking. It's holding on to certain train of thoughts or whatever it is. And when I start to do this whole touch and release process, quite often these days, by the time I finish, come to the very end of it, I more or less would have released those concerns, those whatever thoughts. I would have actually forgotten what I was thinking about at the beginning of the meditation. So for me at least, it does work to some extent. So there's a good meditation to start the workshop with, to get us all ready, help us to enter into a more meditative frame of mind, but also illustrate the power of the key idea here, that sometimes we don't really need to work very hard or strain or struggle or fight or adopt a more antagonistic approach against what we find here within ourselves, against the different processes, especially if it's not going the way we want or it's something we want to be rid of. Maybe all it needs is for us to be a bit patient and to return our attention to come back here now, to be aware of what is happening. It's like, oh, what's going on here? A greater sense of awareness, more in touch with the reality of the moment sometimes. Just that in itself can facilitate a lot of positive change that happen, not because we are in control, but change that happen because we change the conditions. And it allows the intelligence of our own body and mind to take over. And they know themselves better. They know how to make the necessary adjustments if the right conditions are there for that. And a lot of time, the right condition is what we do with our attention. What are we attending to? If we are attending to a matter or something that is very disturbing, that is agitating, then it's very hard to expect our body and the mind to not react to that. Whereas, on the other hand, if we invite the attention to come back here and now, and as the body and mind sort of figure out that, oh, well, nothing as much is happening here, so maybe I don't need to work so hard. Then that's when the body decided, all right, forget about all these contractions and tensions. I can just take a day off. And then the mind may decide that, oh, well, I don't really want to think so much about it. Then it would drop those ideas, drop those thoughts. So roughly, that's how I sort of understand it. Let's apply the same idea to attachment. Today, of course, we can be attached to many things. At least in the morning, as I written in the description of the workshop, one of the main area we get very confused is in our relationship with fellow human beings. We confuse attachment and love. In fact, so many times I have this discussion where people feel that if they're not attached, then they're not loving. I thought about it a lot. I mean, of course, I also have attachment. And I sometimes wonder, maybe it has to do with our ideas of love. And we have certain picture, image of what it means to be loving. Right? And I think some of those ideas of loving, just as with attachment, certain ideas we have of people get in the way of our letting go. Because I think if we don't cling to somebody, we don't behave in a certain very attached way, we are afraid that we might not look very loving. We don't fit in a certain image in our mind or in other people's mind. Sometimes the expectation comes from others. Others say, do you think of me at all? If you say, well, not really, is there any need for me to think about you? Then you might seems as if you are not been loving, not sufficiently loving, because you didn't even think about them. Yeah. Whereas you sort of wonder, why do I need to think about you if you're perfectly fine? So I think some of our confusion and difficulty with attachment has to do with our idea of what it means to be loving, to love. And so that aside, we definitely will do better in working with attachment if we are more in touch with the reality, including the reality of what it means to love. Yeah. So what I have in today's practice prepared is a meditation practice called Tongling in Tibetan, taking and giving, which is a meditation for cultivating compassion and love. And I want to just explain why I think this meditation is very helpful in helping us to work with attachment and helping to facilitate letting go. Just as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this workshop, the attachment has very much to do with confusing a certain image and idea in our mind with the actual person. The image and idea that we build up about this person is unrealistic. It probably include a lot of exaggerated qualities. A lot of those superimposition actually come from us. What we deep down within us, our longing, our craving, what we feel we need or we want, and all those somehow work its way into this image. And this image is then projected onto the person. Some of us is not 100% inaccurate, but it is distorted. So much so that we are becoming more and more out of touch with the actual person. So the way to remedy that, the way to weaken the hold of attachment, of course, is to, just as what we have done with the body, we can do it to be more in touch with the person, right? To be more attentive, to notice what is actually happening to this person. And Tongling practice is very good to invite our attention to come back, to attend to this person, at least in the context of meditation. And the taking part is usually it's done later. I'll explain how you can do it without associating with the breath, but usually it's done in association with the breath. So breathing in is just as what we have done earlier, is the opportunity to let into our awareness something about this person. In this case, let into our awareness things that we normally are not aware of, or we don't want to be aware of, things that are maybe a little bit difficult, painful, unpleasant, like the suffering of this person, the pain that this person either they are going through now or they have struggled with in the past, letting into our awareness the challenges or even aspects of this person that we rather not know or don't want to be aware of. So all this unpleasant, unwanted aspect of the person, which is most probably the thing that we kept out of our awareness, is what we invite in. We invite in. And usually in Tonglen, it's very powerful, is to make use of yet another image to represent all this. Using an image to represent all this that is unwanted, keep it a bit safer. That is mediated by an image. And also, it allows for you to explore what might some of these things be. We may not know that because we have not attended to them. So you can choose a suitable image to work with. Working with image allows you a lot of freedom, to approach it at your own pace. You don't feel overwhelmed by it. And so there are different kind of image. Usually we use two because the taking we use one, and the giving, the sending forth, we use something that is opposite. I tend to, due to my lack of imagination, think of what I take on as in the form of dark smoke. It's just an image, yeah. And sending forth, I send forth something that's bright, like radiant, bright, warm, light. So they have opposing characteristics. Another image that I've read about in the teaching of Pema Chodron, some of you may have heard of her. She once described one of the participants in her workshop or retreat used an image of an empty bird cage. Bird cage, empty. Taking is when the door of the bird cage slams shut. Giving, the opposite, which I'll explain, is when it's opening the door of the bird cage. So the whole meditation is closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, which is kind of an interesting image. When I first heard about this image, I was quite struck by it. I thought, wow. The first thought is, what sort of experience this person must have gone through to come up with such an image, and what might that image represent for this person? Yeah. Anyway, so I give you practically two extreme end of type of images we can work with, and so we work with the images. The images serve as like a representation of all the things that it's possible for us to be aware of, to be in touch of in good time when we are ready for them. Breathing in, focusing on this person, a particular person. We draw in, and just a little bit. Just follow the rhythm of the breath. You don't have to control the breath. So if the breath is very short, very shallow, that's fine. That means we just take in that tiny little bit of whatever it is from that person. And also, why do we want to do that? Because we want to also help us to invoke a different response, a response of compassion. So we're not leaving ourselves hanging there to face this stuff that we are letting in. We are letting in order for it to trigger, to bring forth, and to familiarize ourselves with this wonderful, heartfelt quality of compassion, right? To awaken the compassion that we already have. Yeah. So we let that in. Then on the out breath, the same movement of release. So we want to release something out, to open the hand of grasping and to share something with this person. And we represent it in a positive form, sharing something that is conducive to happiness, something that is an expression, yet another response of genuine loving concern and kindness. So we take in what we are unaware of, or what is unwanted, or maybe rejected on a certain level. Then it comes in to invoke compassion, a compassionate response towards this person, and we breathe out and we release, we send forth something really radiant and bright, or that has a very positive connotation, sharing it with this person, expressing, and so doing our loving concern, loving kindness. And the whole meditation become one of just on the in-breath, let in a little bit, in my case, let in a little bit of that dark smoke. And you can do it, the important thing is not to feel hurried, or not to feel pressurized, constrained. So we can do it at the level we feel comfortable, at the pace we feel comfortable. It can be very, very slow. Slow not in the sense, but slow in the sense that we are not in a hurry to get anywhere. So and if you are new to this meditation, then I suggest you split the two into two different phases. On one phase, you just focus on the in-breath. In-breath, taking a little bit. In-breath, taking a little bit. And on the out-breath, you just relax. Don't have to do anything. So that you get used to the rhythm of opening the heart and allowing just a little bit, whatever amount you feel comfortable of that image to come in, so that it has a chance to invoke compassionate response. Compassionate response, which is the intention, may you be free from suffering and causes of suffering. You do that for a while, and then you switch, focus on the out breath, the mechanism of release, and imagine as the out breath is flowing, something from within, something really good and positive is sent forth with the out breath to the other person as an expression of loving concern, loving kindness. Try on and work with our understanding of what it means to love, to be kind, to care, to show concern, with the intention, may you find happiness and the causes of happiness. And notice that the locus of this practice is actually with the other person. What is the reality of that person? Can I invoke compassion for the challenges this person is facing, for his or her share of suffering or pain? Can I invoke compassion for his or her aspects of this person that might be highly unpleasant, unwanted, that might be rejected? No. And also, the locus is also at the person when it comes to happiness. May you find happiness. May you be happy. May you be equipped with the causes that you need for you to be happy. So it's also an exercise in shifting the locus of attention to the other person instead of with oneself. Because attachment, the other aspect of attachment is, although it seems to be about the other person, it's actually about ourselves. It's all about ourselves. Attachment is very self-centered and self-focused. It's all about me, me, me. It's all about my happiness, and my suffering. And one way to also to work with attachment is to learn to shift the locus of our attention outside of ourselves, in this case to the other person. Okay, so that is the main meditation that I offered to work with our attachment to other people, is to return our attention to those people one at a time, and to be in touch with their reality, in touch with their experiences, both the good and the bad, in touch with their aspects, the different aspects of the person, especially those aspects that are somehow rejected by us, somehow unwanted, or we are unaware of. And we do the whole practice, making use or with the help and the support of two contrasting images or ideas. One that allow us to practice taking in, to invoke compassion. One allows practice sending forth as an expression of loving kindness. Okay, so before we actually give it a try, wonder is there any questions or comments up to this point? Okay, I do a lot of meditation associated with the breath, but I also have to acknowledge that the breath is not everyone's favorite. If you do find working, especially with Tongling, it has maybe a little bit more complicated. You find associating it with the breath is very you find difficult, difficult to get into it. Then you can forget about the breath. You just have to create a certain rhythm, because it's basically the rhythm of the breath that we make use of. That there is movement of taking in, then there's the movement of sending forth, taking and giving, taking and sending. So you can just vary on your own. For a few minutes or a few seconds, you focus on drawing in something from the person, especially the unwanted, unappreciated aspect of the person, and letting come in to you to invoke a compassionate response. In that case, if you are not using a breath, you probably have plenty of time. You can just imagine something flow into your own heart and try to respond to that with compassion. You can express that compassion in a few simple phrases. You can even say, "Oh, may you be free of pain and sorrow. May you find healing. May you find peace." And then when you feel ready, you can imagine sending something really radiant and bright and good to that person. Again, as a response of loving kindness, which you can express with a few phrases. If I'm doing it that way, May you live in safety. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Okay, so that is one way you can do it. If you don't want to piggyback on the breath sensations, so you just have to alternate the two movements on your own. Taking, sending, taking, sending, taking, sending. And the whole process, either way we do it, the main focus is still on the other person, right? And try to, if possible, bring forth an image of that person and make that the focus of the meditation, and getting to know this person, and getting to try on a different way of relating and interacting with this person, at least on the level of the heart. Okay, so let's do meditation and just test out this idea. And how does this work with attachment? After we try out the idea, hopefully you might be able to see that the whole practice is to try on the two main ideas, touch and release. Touch is to be in touch with the person as much as possible, the real person, not the one that we have fantasized, not the one that we have built up all this image or idea in our head that we expect them to be, but who they are as they are. And the other part would be, of course, to try on the release. That it is possible to release our attachment, to let go of our holding, because we can respond to this person, we can relate to this person with something even better, more wholesome, virtuous, more in touch with reality. We can interact with this person with compassion and loving kindness. Isn't that much better than with all the holding and the clinging of attachment? So when we have that kind of possibility, we are probably more willing to let go of attachment. Let's give it a try and see what happens. So once again, I invite you to settle back in a comfortable meditation posture. Take care that the posture does not introduce unnecessary pain or discomfort into your back, into your spine. Rest your hands and arms on some physical support, and feel free to close your eyes or leave them open, whichever works best for you. Take a few minutes, allow our body to find its way in this posture. And since we're going to use the breath, we can actually start by attending to the breath sensations in the body, so that we are aware of the in-breath and the out-breath. For the first few minutes of this meditation, we simply invite our attention to come back to the breath sensations in our body, to tune in to the rhythm of the breath, to be aware of the flow of the breath, the flow of breath sensations within our body. To be in touch with the breath sensations alongside with other bodily sensations, other things that are happening here and now. And on the out breath, we can continue to remind ourselves to release. Coming back to the breath. On the in-breath, letting in, be in touch. On the out-breath, releasing. A good place actually to facilitate the whole release process is to start with our own face. Attending to the breath, maybe we notice that we have once again unconsciously tightened the muscles of our face. If that is true, Breathing out, releasing. Is it possible for us to relax some of those muscles in the face, to let in a feeling of softness, of ease and comfort in our own face? And whenever you feel ready, we can switch over to toning meditation, regardless of which version you choose to use, either relying on the breath or without attending to the breath. Take your time. Start with bringing to mind someone close to you, someone in your life that you're very close to, you know fairly well. Bring that person to mind. Maybe picture the person in your mind's eye. And first focus on taking with the in breath. Just focus on the taking in, letting into your own awareness aspects of this person that maybe we are not so aware of, or that we maybe even afraid to know, that we don't want to know. Let into your awareness the share, this person's share of difficulties, challenges in life, unhappiness, their struggles, including aspects of themselves, their personality that might not be so pleasant to know or to be in touch with. Represent all of these unwanted aspects in a suitable form for yourself. I use the image of dark smoke. You are most welcome to choose any other image. Breathing in, simply allow a small portion of that dark smoke, or wherever it is, to flow in alongside the in breath, to come in touch with our own heart. The whole point of doing so is really to invoke, to activate the heartfelt compassion that we all have, and to call forth that compassion in relation to this person, to someone that you're close to, someone that you love and you care about. Compassion with the intention, may you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. So do this at your own pace, focusing first on just on the in breath and relaxing on the out breath, and get used to the idea of taking in, letting in something that's represented in my case as dark smoke, letting it into one's awareness, one's heart, and to see if we can hold that, react to that, respond to that with compassion. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And having tried out taking for a short while, we can switch to giving, sending for releasing. Release something really wonderful, positive, represented in the image. In my case, radiant, warm light flow out from the heart, flow alongside the out breath, and travel all the way to this person, almost as if I'm lightening up their life, brightening up their life, filling it with some brightness and radiance and warmth. And this process is done as an expression of loving kindness. May you find happiness and the causes of happiness. And then, as you get used to these two movements, feel free to alternate them at your own pace. Take as long or as short as you like with each part of the process. Just get used to the idea of taking in, evoking compassion, sending forth, releasing, expressing loving kindness. So coming back to the breath, again and again, refocus on the person, the image of the person in your mind's eye. And as we work with those two opposing ideas or images, darkness and light, you'll find that as you get settled in, your mind, your heart automatically start to explore what does that darkness represent. Spontaneously, you may find certain memories, certain images, certain thoughts pop into your mind. The different aspects of this person that you know of, their share of unhappiness, challenges, some of it will just automatically surface alongside the dark smoke. And if it is appropriate, as you breathe in, welcome that into your own heart. These are some of those things, some of the things related to the person that are in some way unwanted, unpleasant, and that we can hold them in our own mind and heart and respond with compassion. And likewise, as you breathe out, as you release and send forth the image, for example, radiant bright light to brighten this person's life, to warm their heart. In the midst of it, other ideas, other memories may pop into your mind, other ways of expressing loving kindness, of extending loving concern. Coming back to the person, moving at your own pace with this meditation, don't feel rush. Slowly, bit by bit, as we continue with Tonglen, taking and giving, the locus of our concern, our attention shift from what I need, what I want, what I think, what I feel, to what does he or she wants? What do they need? What do they long for? What is happening with them? When self-centeredness is replaced by other-centeredness, by the genuine attitude of cherishing other, we move one step closer to letting go of attachment. Coming back to the person you're practicing tonglen with, feel free to stay as long or as short as you like with each one of them. When you feel ready, say goodbye to this one person and move on. Bring another person to mind, another one, the people in your so-called inner circle of concern, where we are quite likely to be attached to, and repeat the whole process of tonglen, taking and sending with this person at your own pace. Okay, so there is tongue meditation for others. Might take a while for us to figure out how to do it in a way that is we feel comfortable with. But it's a very powerful meditation. It's my hospital meditation when I go to hospital. If there's an opportunity, I do it because it's the wonderful meditation where, especially at times when you can't really do anything much physically or practically for someone, and instead allowing the mind to be overwhelmed with all the worrying and concerns, or sometimes we don't know what to do with ourselves, and so we play computer games on our mobile phones, which is perfectly legitimate option. But here I offer tongue meditation. Regardless of whether you are physically close to that person or not, physically as in whether you're right by the side of the person or miles away. Tongue also is a way of staying connected with that person, at least on the heart level. That just because I cannot do anything physically or practically for this person doesn't mean I have to somehow kick this person out of my own heart and mind, because otherwise I feel overwhelmed with this sense of helplessness or powerlessness. I can stay connected in this way and able to be in touch with the experience of the person, at least on the imaginary level, and to extend compassion and loving kindness. And I find that also it is a good way to work with attachment, because we are not asking ourselves to sort of just drop our attachment. We often find that quite too demanding, because we don't know how to relate to that person. So here we offer ourselves options. We offer ourselves, we can nonetheless connect with the person or with compassion. We can still connect with the person with loving kindness. So we are not at a loss of what to do in relation to this person that we may be attached to. And instead, we might find that compassion and loving kindness are in many ways more superior than attachment. And not only does it genuinely allow us to care for the other person, but also within our own experience, it also allows us to establish a very healthy connection, a very healthy relationship with this person. Okay, so that's all I have for the morning session. In the afternoon session at 1 o'clock, we will explore deeper into the mechanism of attachment and how we can work at creating or gathering more conditions that facilitate the letting go of attachment. Right, so thank you very much for your attention. And if you are not coming back in the afternoon, I wish you have a good Sunday. Enjoy the rest of Sunday. And for the rest, I'll see you in an hour's time at 1 o'clock. So thank you. See you later.